What is going on, diehards and degenerates? Happy Monday evening to you. It's your boy Clint back again talking UFC Vegas 65. We have count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 events left in the UFC to wrap up the year of our Lord 2022. And gosh dang, I got to be honest with you guys, I cannot wait for this year to be over. I am absolutely done with it. All right. As you can tell, first and foremost, cold as shit in here. I'm rocking my Patty the Batty sweater gear here and the sexiest beanie of all time. But definitely not rocking the baby blues because I thought we were getting back on track. I really thought we were shifting things in the right direction. Had a couple good little weeks in a row. We were chipping away at it, looking good, and then we got nuked. Absolutely nuked last week. You know, it was one of those weeks where Saturday I sit back and I'm like, all right. I'm looking at the phone. You look at the bets that you set up, and I was like, is that really my betting card this week? Like, just you just put the plays in over the course of the week, and you talk about the fights, and you make the spots that you think that you like, and you're just like, like that's just such a gross betting card. I had a bad feeling going into this week, unfortunately. And hey, you guys know me. Openness, honesty, transparency. You're going to find my ass in this seat every single Monday. You guys can't get rid of me that easily. But definitely having the worst year betting of my life. So elephant in the room time. We crossed the Mendoza line by a lot. We totaled it all up and minus 66 units on the year. So yeah, for any of you wondering, now, there's people that take different approaches out there, but generally speaking, when you're gambling, you've got a 100-unit bankroll. So I am 66 of those 100 units in the hole, which means I have lost almost 2/3 of my entire gambling bankroll in the year of our Lord 2022, which is why I hate it so very, very much. But I think I've identified a couple of things that I am doing wrong, and I just, for whatever reason, am a creature of habit and seem not to be able to break out of those habits. I did go back and I looked at like the 2021 numbers where I posted a positive 34 unit year, and night and day compared to what I'm doing here in 2022. So not only have I been slipping up, but I am, reversing some of the things I expected to work on and wanted to try coming out of a good year in 2021. So, hey, this is a long-term game, right? So I went back and I crunched all the numbers since I started the podcast 4 years ago at this point. We're down 13 units. So you go all the way back to 2019. I've been gambling in front of all of you, giving my picks out every single week for 4 straight years, and I'm down 13 units at this point. So that feels gross. I don't want to be down units overall lifetime. That sucks because I've always been able to fall back and say I'm a profitable long-term gambler, and I don't really have that excuse anymore, unfortunately. So that hurts a little bit, but you know what? When you think about it long-term like that, it's not as bad as it looks. Bad year, obviously. Bad year this year, but could be worse, and long term not as bad as you would think. Trying to get our guest in here, got some technical difficulties going on. Sorry about that. Let me see here. Anyway, one of those, you know what? And my guy Dreamin here in the chat saying skull, and you guys have no idea how much I needed that. Going in on Sunday, absolutely craziest freaking game of the year. Vikings and the Bills, and my Vikings absolutely bombed that one. Got out of there with a win, 7-1, feeling fucking good, man. Feeling fucking good. Shout out to the chat. Everybody out here hanging out. My guy Dream, obviously, already getting the shout. Grateful Dude, Anthony Cabrera, Jared Curry. We've got Travis M. We've got Justin Villejas out here. Thank you guys very, very much, man. Thank you. And Dirty Reg 22 hanging out as well. Of course, got to have the one troll hater, MMA God. Fuck right off, buddy. You're here every single damn week watching my show. So no, I will not be retiring from MMA betting. You can keep on tuning in from the sidelines, baby. Come check it out and hang out. The comeback is going to be even more fun when all the haters have to deal with me going on a hot streak. So just wait, folks. Like, I may be old. I may be rocking the dad bod at this point, but y'all forget that your boy is a competitor. I've never taken anything lightly my entire fucking life. So I'm having a bad year. Clock resets January 1st, 2023, we got a new year, we got a new goal. I'm going to try and dig a little bit out of this hole before then, obviously, but we're going to go ahead and kick some serious ass going forward. Trust me, this ain't over. This shit ain't over. We're not going anywhere. Real quick, if anybody has any questions, want to jump in the chat or something right now. I thought that this would have bought enough time to get our guest in here, but like I said, technical issues. They're a bitch sometimes. Bro, how did Israel Adesanya go the same way of Kamaru Usman? Like, how did we get not one, but two all-time champions that are dominating a fight from bell to bell and then get starched in the fifth? Like, how does that happen? I've been talking about this fight card. Oh shoot, sorry guys. If there's an audio issue, I'm not sure what to do to change it. My setup has not changed at all from usual, so I apologize if there is some kind of a lag here on the audio version of things here. Let me real quick pop out and pop. Hopefully that does something. I'm not sure what else I can do to fix it. Dang, there's a lot of people saying the audio and video aren't matching up. All right, help me out here, everybody. Let me know if the audio is if that fixed it, maybe. Hopefully that did it. I don't know. None of the cords are loose or anything like that, so I apologize. We don't usually have tech issues. The system is usually set up and clean and good to go. All right, people are saying it's good now. Thank you guys. Thank you. Perfect. Very much. And then what was the Karolina Kowalkiewicz card? Like, what have you got? Okay, first time ever in history, any organization, the officials literally walk into the cage and they're like, yo, Bruce, hold up. I got to fix my card. Like, how does that happen? Like, I know New York has had MMA being illegal for like a long freaking time. So they're behind the ball and their judges are probably worse in New York than maybe any of the other venues. But how do you possibly get away with scoring a fight and then stepping into the cage afterward and being like, no, let me take it back. I have no idea what to make of that whole situation. UFC 281 was an insane night. I mean, it was awesome. Like, bell to bell, the fights were fan-freaking-tastic, but there was some crazy shit that went on. This year is, it's ending in madness. Hopefully it continues and we can cash in on some of that. Guys, I'm happy to announce our guest is here. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, smash the like button for me, as you always do. But you're going to need to smash the like button even harder because we got a special guest for you here. The man who single-handedly broke DraftKings MMA. You may know him from his podcast with the coach, the leader of all leaders, Santino DeFranco, the number 3 ranked amateur flyweight in the state of Arizona, but number 1 ranked in my heart. Brandon Olivas joining us to break down some fights tonight. Brandon, how you doing tonight, my guy?
Good. How are you? Hey, by the way,
good, man.
I should be number 1. I beat the guy who's number 1. He's bullshit. I should be number 1. No doubt. That's
what I'm talking about. I thought you were number 1 until I checked it. So I was kind of surprised to see number 3. And he left. Tech issues, everybody. Bear with us here for a second. Welcome back, Brandon.
Sorry, I'm scrambling. I've been gone all day, and then now I'm scrambling to get here. I had to feed myself a little bit, so I had some energy. Didn't fall asleep during the middle of the show. I'm good now. We're good. We're good.
We're all set, man. And I love the shirt, love the watch, looking slick today on the show. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you. And
I knew I was going to see you. I had to dress up.
I appreciate that, man. I would have dressed nicer, but I'm freezing my tits off. So like, I just got to be bundled up in here. I don't know what it is. My office is like the ice box of the house. We've got like a bad circulation system in here. So I'm always just freezing when I'm doing the podcast around wintertime. I know it's Phoenix and everyone calls us babies because it's still, gorgeous outside, but I'm a pansy. I got thin blood now.
Yeah, it gets cold. Even my relatives from like Colorado will come to town and they know it's cold too. There's nobody that can deny that.
Dude, people, you know what? They say it and everyone rolls their eyes, but seriously, desert winters, they chill you to the bone. It's a different kind of cold, man. It's a different kind of cold. All right, everybody. We got Brandon joining us here on the show. Real quick, man. I don't know if you ended up doing anything. Did you have a good week last week? How'd you do?
I got destroyed last week. I've had my best week ever followed by my worst week ever. It just seemed like every single time I was just choosing Like I couldn't get a win. I couldn't get a single win the whole time.
I hear you, man. That's it always seems to go that way, right? Like the variance comes back in a hurry. They're like, good week. Okay, now you get your ass kicked. That's the roller coaster that we play. All right, man. UFC Vegas 65. Like I said, everybody, make sure you smash that like button and support our guy, Brandon Olivas. He's an awesome follow on Twitter. So if you guys aren't on social media, jump over there, give him a follow, hang out. And of course, the show has lines brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're going to be bringing all the action to you from Superbook Sports today. I accidentally did the wrong button there, so you're going to have to forgive me as I get this back up for everybody. First fight of the night, we're going to be talking about ladies MMA action. Natalia Silva taking on Tereza Bleda. And this is a really intriguing fight, in my opinion, because Natalia Silva, people have had some opinions about her, man. That's been, people have had a hard time wrapping their brain around exactly what she's good at, what she's bad at. And now she's going to be kind of reversing the role here and welcoming a UFC newcomer to the octagon. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on several of these matchups here. Bleda, though, 6-0, man. Coming off Dana White's Contender Series. She had a 9-0 undefeated amateur record before that, coming out of the Octagon promotion, which is a pretty decent promotion. Big, physical, grappling heavy attack. She just sticks to people like glue, man. Like when I've watched her tape, it looks like once she gets on you, she's just relentless. It's almost impossible to get her off. And then disgusting ground and pound. I mean, the elbows that she lays down on some of these women is filthy. I love that women's MMA is catching up the way it is, because some of these regional scene girls that are getting to the UFC now, man, they're brutal. The days of these decision bad paced women's MMA fights, like, they're gone. This next crop of women is going to be straight killers. I love it. She's taking on Natalia Silva, 13-5-1. She's coming off that win over Jasmine Judavicius. One of my favorite spots, man. I've said this many, many times this year. I have not had a good betting year, but one of my good calls was that Jasmine Judavicius is awful. She's a size bully. So when they gave us a good price on Silva, cashed in good on that one. She landed 2 takedowns, 96 significant strikes, hard body kicks, likes to attack the legs and the body. She's got that big, powerful left kick. She's always striking in combinations. You love to see that. She's strong in the body lock, moves really well backwards striking, which is nice to see, so she can retreat and still be offensive. Slick arm bars, BJJ purple belt. This is a great fight. I love this fight, man. I want to hear your thoughts on the matchup and who you think the right side is.
Just walk me through the format of the show. Do we get wordsy here? Or we try to keep it super simple? What's kind of the format here?
You know, I kind of like to let my guest drive, Brandon. If you're in a hurry and you don't have much to say on a particular fight, you can just be like, bro, I have no idea, pass it, and we'll call it quits. I've got my notes. I can fill some time. If you have an opinion and you want to go off for 15 minutes on a fight you're passionate about, you go right the fuck ahead. This is the diehard MMA podcast. The people don't come here for bitch-made MMA opinions. If you want to talk fights, baby, we can talk fights for 2.5 hours. These people are going to roll with us. So have at it however you want to approach.
I like that approach. That's a great approach. I think that's how Santino and I do it too. So that's perfect. Well, let me talk about this. So I think this is interesting. The level of women's MMA. So you just said it's come a long way. That being said, the level of women's MMA is not there yet. And just to keep this in perspective, right? So if you guys don't know me, hello, I'm Brandon. I gamble, but I also fight. I've been fighting for a very long time. Been doing jiu-jitsu for 11 years now, since I was 14 years old. And, I've been around the game a long time. One of the hardest things that I ever had to go through with MMA as a person who is a grappler, right, was tracking people down. It's how to mix your striking to your wrestling. And that's one thing in itself. Now, when somebody has the insane lateral movement that Natalia Silva has, the game just got a million times harder. To set up your punches to your wrestling, right? That takes a long time to get really good at, right? Now somebody's just going back and forth, never stopping. And they have a good takedown defense, right? She has a great sprawl. She's controlling the hand. She's always moving her back off the cage. That makes life really, really hard. Now, the reason that I even say that is because Bleda is 20 years old. She's 20 years old. That is so young to be in the UFC. And honestly, I don't think you start correcting a lot of these mistakes until you're 23, 24 years old. Or just learning how to kind of tie everything together. It's just literally not enough time. It's like you're in university and you're just learning, right? I wish she was just a little bit worse or a little bit smaller. And I would I'd put $1 million on Natalia Silva tomorrow, right? Because Natalia Silva really is the goods. And she started the trend this year of Brazilians whose tape doesn't match what we're actually seeing in the ring. And I said this a few weeks ago on Vidal. Everybody, I think all the YouTubers in the Twitter space, everybody was on Ramona, and I was too. Yeah, and we all were, because what we see on tape is one thing, right? But I said this with a huge disclaimer at the beginning of the show. I said, guys, I'm not going to fall for this trap again. I've seen this way too many times by now. This is like the third Brazilian in a row who looks god awful on tape and then comes out and looks like world beat. You're like, what the hell? And Natalia was the first one. Now, I do want to disagree with you just a little bit about Jazz. I think she's better than what you're giving her credit for. But it's all relative, right? Is she going to go out? What is she, 125er? Can she go beat me in a fight? Fuck no, absolutely not. But for the women's division, she's good enough, right? She's big. Yeah. She can wrestle enough, and she has a jab, which is going to take her a long way. She's physical. Natalia Silva beat the brakes off her. So now we get a girl who's a little bit younger. She's 2 inches taller. She looks very strong. She's got a decent enough jab. The matchup actually looks really familiar, really similar to the Jazz DeVicious fight to me. The biggest difference here, I think, is Natalia doesn't make the same decisions that the Brazilian girl on Contender Series makes, where that girl wanted to play heel hooks, play off her back. Natalia is fast. She's got constant lateral movement. You can tell she has good fight IQ, because the way that she gets off the cage, where most fighters, even today, even top level fighters, they're letting people put them on the cage and they don't get off for minutes, right? And they lose a lot of time there. I really, really, really like I like Natalia Silva just in general as a fighter. Now, the physicality goes such a long way in women's MMA, but I just have to trust, like, the better fighter is going to take this one. I really like Natalia Silva in this spot. I think she's faster, more dynamic, makes better decisions. Just a little more. I like Natalia Silva. She's the only Brazilian woman that I will recognize in my life.
All right, man. I love it. Right now, Natalia Silva is a -165 favorite. The comeback on Tereza Bleda is +145. And generally, I take the approach of fading fighters coming off the Contender Series more often than not. You know what I mean? They just take time to acclimate to the UFC level, it seems. And I'm coming off a win over that Jasmine Judavicius fight we talked about on Natalia Silva. I'm tempted to run it back here with my girl. Natalia Silva is going to become one of my girls, I think, the way that she's looking. I'm glad you brought up the Brazilian tape thing, because I have that exact note right here for a fight later on in the card. Because for me, like, I spotted Natalia Silva last time. I wasn't going to mention it here, but there's another fight that applies to in just a couple minutes that we'll get to. So we're kind of
I might have a special guest for you too.
Oh, special. Okay. All right. I like it. Throwing curveballs. Good shit, Brandon. Yeah. All right. So, guys, it sounds like we're on the same page here for this one. I think we both like the favorite here in Natalia Silva, and that price is coming down. I'm seeing a lot of people out there backing the dog.
Hey, hold on. I'm going to turn down my light just a little bit. I'm pretty bright.
Go for it. All right. What's up, Troy? Good to see you, my man. And hey, real quick, Raw Torque, absolutely. We will take just a second here to say rest in peace, Rumble Johnson. One of my absolute all-time favorite fighters. I mean, I loved that guy, followed his career forever. One of the most spectacular finishers the sport has ever seen. Gone way too early, man. Just one of those things, you know. Life's precious, folks. You don't know how much time you have. He's a super athlete, got a bad bounce, and he's gone. So make the best of your day. That's all I can say. All right, everybody. Next fight up. Fernie Garcia taking on Brady Hiestand. We have Brady finally making it back after losing that split decision over Ricky Turcios, taking on Fernie, who is 10-2. This man is a victim of the Dana White Contender Series fade. Fernie Garcia trying to bounce back after that first loss. Trains out of Fortis MMA, mostly boxing, heavy attack, pretty good range management from what I've been able to see. He's heavy on that lead leg, walks his way into range. He's got really fast counters, man. His absolute power in that right hand of his. Journey Newsom was visibly uncomfortable every time he landed it. He wanted nothing to do with that shot, but he's a bit of a Sam Alvey. He's a bit low volume. He's a bit lack of urgency. You know, those are the kinds of things where I don't know if that's him or if that's nerves in his first fight, maybe a bad matchup. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, but I wished his volume and his sense of urgency was a little bit more in that last fight. Now, Brady Hiestand 5-2. Like I mentioned, that split decision to Ricky Turcios, man, he landed 6 takedowns. and 66 significant strikes in that fight and lost a split. A lot of people I know went to war with Brady in that fight and felt like he got robbed and the split went the wrong way. Just relentless wrestling from this guy. Does a good job of pushing and pulling when he's got people up against the fence, gets your weight going one direction, dumps you back the other way. Very active from top position. He'll kind of beat you up, smash and pass, and then advance position from there. And he can dig deep. He's a guy that if he gets tired or the fight isn't going his way, he absolutely will stay in there. He'll fight for your money. Brady Hiestand the type of dog that will fight for your cash if you like him. And he's got a 4-inch reach advantage here in this spot, Brandon. What do you think about this fight? I tend to kind of lean with Brady Hiestand, but I'm not familiar enough with Fernie Garcia to count him out in this fight.
Well, we know Fernie pretty well. Fernie's he's floated in a lot of these Arizona circles, right? Trying to find a lot of our teammates. We have tried to get him to fight Casey Tanner a million times. I guess he's turned down the fight every time. Like, he won't fight anybody from our camps, which is smart because we know the deal with Fernie, right? He's he's not that real. And we saw that in the last fight, right? I picked Journey in that last fight. We know Fernie just too well. And on the other side, I really actually like Brady Hiestand. I think I like him. I'm not sure. Brady Hiestand. I like him. So I'm opposite. I know one guy's kind of a fraud, and the other guy has a lot of potential. And weirdly, I'm kind of leaning Fernie in this matchup. Now on the rewatch, Brady actually impressed me. He didn't gas as bad as I had thought. Like, he didn't go as low volume as I had thought, and he kind of kept the pace. I mean, with Turcios, who's just a complete spastic. So it was a better on the rewatch. But the thing that I really like about Fernie is the second his butt hits the mat, he's back up. And when you get a guy who's almost always wrestling, almost always grappling, and not throwing a ton of ground and pound, right? The more that he stands up, the more that wears on Brady. And the thing that I do like about Fernie, the best part of his game is those hands, right? He does have pretty decent boxing, pretty decent hands. Even if mentally he's a little bit weak, even if he doesn't have the best cardio, I have to trust and believe that Saif Saud will at least have a decent enough game plan to beat Brady Hiestand, just with the criteria these days and just how fights are judged. I probably have to go with Fernie. I think he could KO him, right? He got rocked by Ricky Turcios, who's got noodle arms. That's pretty insane. So now you get Fernie with a little bit bigger power, a little bit more volume than I think Brady would put out, and probably bigger moments, bigger punches compared to just a grappling upside. So I've been very, very split on this one. I'm not going to bet it personally, but I think that Fernie's going to take this one. I think it's a pretty solid spot as an underdog.
Okay. You brought up some great points there, man. And honestly, I'm glad you mentioned the power there because I forgot that Brady got rocked by Ricky Turcios. And let's face it, Ricky Turcios doesn't rock anybody. That is a great note right there, folks, because Fernie, he's got some, like I mentioned, those fast counters. He's got pretty heavy hands. So that's a great point here. We could be looking at a live dog here in the second night of the fight. Love it. Thank you very much, Brandon. And shout out our guy, Raw Torg, just saying 2 of the best cappers in the biz can't decide who is more handsome.
We both know the answer to that. It's you, Clint.
I don't know. Only one of us can fix his hair. All right, everybody, moving right along. Hey, you know what? My hair's finally growing back after doing the Tropic Thunder costume. So I at least have like evenly shaved head now instead of just hair on the sides from the Tropic Thunder. So we're back in business. Next up, Maria Oliveira taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. I cannot wait to talk to you about this one. Man, I like Maria Oliveira just in general. She looks like she's got that tall, lanky frame that is really good for MMA. Like, if you figure out how to control the range, control the distance, balance that pogo stick, takedown defense, like fighters that are built that way can just do a lot. I feel like there's a lot of success to be had in MMA there. She's coming off a split decision win, kind of saved her job here after her first 2 UFC L's. She did get thrown to the wolves, KO'd by Maryna Rodriguez, and then got grinded on by Tabitha Ricci. But that Ricci fight was not as bad. Maria Oliveira? When she fought Tabitha?
The other one. I don't know who that is.
Maryna Rodriguez?
No, I'm just messing around. Go ahead.
Oh, geez. Okay. I'm like, what did I do? Okay. So anyway, she did lose to Tabitha Ricci here, and running back that tape, man, it wasn't quite as bad as I remember it being. She does good digging underhooks. She does a good job of getting her hips back, but she is always backing up. She's always putting herself against the cage. She's always running away. And I feel like it's kind of a bad visual these days. When I see a lot of judging that seems like in a close fight, if you're the one backpedaling, it's just not going to go your way unless you're really emphasizing the strikes that you're landing. You've got to actually be like hurting your opponent every time you touch them. Otherwise, they're probably going to take it as weakness, you being the one backpedaling. She's going to have a ridiculous, insane 10-inch reach advantage here over the T-Rex Vanessa Demopoulos with her short arms there. Now, I know Vanessa likes to, she's working out at Fight Ready. She's got those tree trunk thighs, man. Big old legs. This girl is built thick. Plotting. She's a little small, 2-2 so far in the UFC. She's got a very active lead right hand, and she's got an absolute piston of a right claw across when she decides to sit down on that thing. She loads up on big body kicks. I do like to see that. And honestly, man, she landed that takedown on Jinyu Frey in round 1, but wasn't able to keep her there. That was kind of the thing that was concerning to me, is not being able to keep her opponent down. Frey kind of busted her up a little bit in that fight. She didn't seem to move her head very often. This fight is lined very closely. And honestly, man, it kind of stinks a little to me, because I feel like everybody and their mother should be piling in here on Maria Oliveira. Minus 120. Vanessa Demopoulos is an even money plus 100 underdog. And I'm just like, from what we've seen, I feel like that line should be wider. Like, it feels like a trap. I got the heebie-jeebies on this one, Brandon. Talk to me about this matchup, and how do you think this fight goes?
Really? You feel that way with Maria? You feel that it should be wider towards Maria?
I'm just saying, based off of visuals alone. Like, you know, a lot of people that are betting these fights are going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, I remember that girl. I remember that fight. Like, watching Vanessa getting kind of roughed up by Jinyu Frey, who just got knocked out, versus Maria Oliveira, who looked okay in a split decision. I just kind of would have thought the perception of this fight would be that the line should be wider. Not that it actually should be that way, but I feel like, I don't know, like it's surprising to me, I guess, how close it is lined here. And I think people will potentially fall for the trap of going for the favorite in this spot.
Well, I'll put it like this. First of all, Vanessa trains with me and she actually lives with me. So that's the thing. I can't talk too much about this fight. And then there's one other fight that I'm not going to talk too much about, but
sure.
Just, you know, just in past tape study, Maria Oliveira, to me, Clint, is one of the worst tapes that I've seen. And I don't mean that as bad as like Vidal's tape. Vidal's tape was pretty atrocious, but just if you actually watch her, she's a very pretty girl, right? So she gets a lot of opportunities. She's got a decent enough record. But when you actually watch somebody who knows how to punch, this girl does not know how to punch. This girl doesn't have the mechanics of most areas of a fight, right? Now, Vanessa's striking has come a long way, I think, right? We've just got her, we keep it simple, stupid. You know, with Santino, with us, we just keep everything simple. And simple is what works. When we can manage range, we can manage distance, we set traps, we know what things are going to work. That's what we do. So I think it's come a long way. The biggest thing with Vanessa that has come a long way, decision-making. That is the biggest thing, is decision-making, right? Not putting yourself in compromised positions, not pulling guard, not making these bad mistakes that are going to end up losing you a fight, right? And I don't know. I just am not a fan of Maria. I don't think she does a lot well, right? I think she's tall and lanky, and that's going to get her pretty far in the division. She throws enough volume, but she doesn't really have the best cardio on planet Earth, right? She doesn't have these really strong, durable hips where she's defending shots and takedowns, you know, in her previous matchups, right? So the one that we don't mention, the little baby shark or whatever, fine, right? Fine, but she's just a grappler, right? She did even crack her over the top with a couple like punches, but her striking leaves a lot to be desired, right? Mm-hmm. And she's a grappler. Got her down, won the fight pretty easily, took her down at will a million times, right? Then the next fight you had GDP, who's actually one of my favorite women's fighters, but literally just fights the worst possible game plans that you can possibly employ, right? That should have been the easiest gimme fight of all time. I lost my ass on that. Hey, hold on just a sec.
Hello, what's up, everybody?
No way!
Stand by.
Vanessa, nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for surprise guesting on the show today.
Yeah.
Hey, so my guy Brandon agreed to come on the podcast. We're breaking down your fight. We like to talk betting here, and I am the single biggest fight ready advocate in the betting community. So I love where you're working and what you're doing right now. everybody in the world is going to interview you this week and ask you about the fight and stuff. I don't know. Is there anything that you want to say that you're not going to say 20 million times later in the week? Or do you just want to, I don't know, shout something out or something? I don't know. I don't want to mess with you too much.
No, you're good. You're good. No, to be honest, it's like, I've never been more excited to be able to step into the cage. I've had such tough opponents. Every single fight that I've ever had since day one in LFA. And I mean, I've been through the trenches already. So it's like getting to walk in there right now for this particular UFC fight. I'm stronger than I've ever been, period. My strength and conditioning coach does a really great job of like marking everything, and the numbers are just incredible. The PI couldn't be more impressed with me right now.
That's awesome.
And my weight's nice and low. I'm in happy spirits, as you can see.
I'm going to credit Brandon for that.
Yeah, he's pretty freaking awesome, man. So yeah, I'm really happy right now. And I'm at Fight Ready, which is one of the most elite gyms in the country. Yes. And I have some of the best coaches in the world. So I just couldn't be in a better place emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally.
That's fantastic. And I know you've got a lot going your way outside the cage as well, right? You're doing commentary and things like that?
I am, which is so sick. Awesome. It's like, who put a microphone in front of my face and let me go at it? Like, it's been an incredible journey. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence too. Now being an official fight analyst for UFC Fight Pass, doing the extra rounds pre and post show for UFC pay-per-view fights. So it's like to be able to analyze things on the spot, be able to see things, and then knowing that like I get to look at my own fight in the same regard. It just gives me that much more of an edge, I feel like, and it gives me more confidence knowing that I have a lot more things going on outside of fighting. Fighting is something that I'm extremely passionate about, but it's not my only thing that defines me.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I was actually going to ask if you felt like that gave you the edge in kind of dissecting your own fights after, watching and studying other people. I got to feel like that's got to be just kind of an extra benefit to your game, right?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon's always talking about how much film study is like super important, and it's something that's so overlooked by most fighters. And I think that if you really know what you're looking at, it makes a big difference. You can't just be like watching a fight just to like be. I mean, I watch fight as a fan all the time. Like last night, I was watching the fights as a fan. But it's different when like you're a real analyst and you get to be able to break things down step by step.
Absolutely. Vanessa, that is so awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time to jump on here and say what's up to everybody here on the Die Hard MMA podcast. Real quick, if we could, prediction, do you want to give out a prediction as to how the fight goes on Saturday? You don't have to.
I'm not going to, but
that's fine.
Just
that's fine.
Definitely look at some of the things that I'm very strong at and know that I've been focusing really hard on those.
Sounds like a plan. I'm shocked to say that you are stronger coming into this fight. I didn't think that was going to be possible based on some of the things you've done previously. So that's terrifying.
Yes, it is. Yeah, even the PI is a little bit scared about it. I've broken every single record that the PI has
really?
As far as strength, endurance, explosivity, focus, VO2 max records, upper body strength, grip strength. Like, I mean, you name it, I've beat them. The only record I haven't beaten is jumps. I can't jump very high. So, but yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to unraveling this package for everybody coming November 19th.
So awesome. Vanessa, again, thank you very much. We are your fans. We'll be cheering for you and appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that was cool.
I hope she wins the most boring, dominant decision ever. That would be a woman after my own heart.
You know what, though? There's something to be said for dominance. Like when your opponent just has no answer, like, I mean, man, as gamblers, people boo and we're like, no, keep doing it. Like just sit on her. She doesn't have an answer. That would be the best thing for anybody back in that kind of a fighter. Dude, thank you for supplying the hookup. That was awesome. And
I got the plug, man. I got the plug.
Absolutely. You're good. You're good. All right. So that was Vanessa Demopoulos, folks. So yeah. Okay. And did she dye her hair red, Brandon? Did I catch that right?
Yeah,
Looks like
she did. She did. It's fight week, man.
I love it. All right. Next fight up, everybody. We've got Ricky Turcios taking on Kevin Natividad. And I'm a little bent out of shape on this one, Brandon, because the very first note that I put on my piece of paper here for this one is that you could not possibly be lower on Ricky Turcios right now. Ricky Turcios coming off that last performance, dropping the ball. Everybody just absolutely, it's like Carlos Esparza level. Everybody just hates the guy right now because of that. He's 11-3. He's got pretty slick grappling, very awkward striking, super high volume though. Like this guy just keeps on. He's Caitlin Chukagian for men. Like just going to keep on throwing it air and just relentlessly come forward. But he's almost incapable of defending a takedown. I mean, 45% takedown defense rating. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And Kevin, 9-3, is a guy that I feel like he hasn't quite lived up to his bar. Like, I'm not sure he's the biggest super athlete of all time, but I've bet on him a couple spots thinking he would perform better than he has shown. He's decently well-rounded, but he's 0-2 in the UFC, both losses by knockout, and he's coming off that bad knockout about 6 months ago. Like I mentioned, very well-rounded, bouncy, light on his feet. He does blitz in on his opponents. A couple of people have been able to capitalize on that, but mostly does his work in boxing range. 5 wins by knockout. So seems like he's got a little bit of power of his own and just kind of has gotten the raw end of the deal in a couple of these battles here. What do you think of this fight? Does Ricky Turcios bounce back, or are we looking at a spot where Kevin Natividad can kind of right the ship here at the UFC?
Well, this is another one I'm not going to speak too much on either because Kevin is another teammate of mine. Yeah, I just got some working with him a few days ago, working on some cage wrestling, working on some just different things. So I don't want to say too much about it, but what I will say, you're right. Kev was kind of a big deal in Arizona, right? Him and his brother Christian, they're big deals in Arizona. They came from Hawaii. The reason they were out here, Christian was on a wrestling scholarship to ASU, and they're both I think Kevin's a brown belt now and Christian's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, right? So they've been around jiu-jitsu a long time. They wrestle. They've spent his whole camp at Fight Ready. So those of you guys that are wondering if we're doing like an Arizona Combat Sports game plan or a Fight Ready game plan, it's going to be Fight Ready, right? Keep it simple. Yeah. I'll be out there all week with Kevin. You know, he's a good generalist, right? He does kind of everything well. He's solid enough striker, right? Clean, basic striking. He can wrestle, and then he's got heavy hips on top. He's a really heavy guy. Now I will say, you know, I posted this about C-Rod sub. C-Rod subbed me, you know, a few weeks ago. I didn't take that too well. And then I may have let him, but I don't know if this is a good omen or not, but Kevin got me too, kind of drilling, just moving around. He caught me in a little anaconda too. So I don't know if that's, you know, a hint to bet Natividad sub or what. I'm not saying anything, but you know, I think this really comes down to strength and dominance versus high volume. You know, Ricky, yes, everyone can beat him up about that, but he's just a spastic, crazy animal. And he's going to win a lot of fights by people gassing themselves out, trying to pin him down, trying to hold him because he's so squirmy and wormy. But he doesn't actually sit down on any punches, right? He doesn't throw anything solid. His submissions are okay, but not great. Like he's just crazy, spastic, has no real game plan, no real takedown defense. Now, having no takedown defense isn't the end of the world, right? It used to be a death sentence. Now, honestly, I'd take a guy who would get taken down a million times and just stand back up. I think that's a great way to fight.
Jamal Hill.
People out. There you go. You know, so again, I think it's going to come down to that. I like Kev. He's a great guy. He's been working really, really hard with us. So, you know, that's all I can say on the fight. I'm not going to pick a side. That is what it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I apologize for the setup there because I forgot to mention that he moved over to Fight Ready for this camp. I'm not used to him being at Fight Ready, so wasn't ready for that one. But yeah, our guy Kevin Natividad moving over to Fight Ready, plus 135 the underdog. Ricky Turcios minus 155 the favorite. And guys, I'm kind of struggling picking a side here on this one myself. I do have to give a pick. I just think maybe we look at an over here. I mean, Ricky Turcios is a guy who's just kind of an energizer bunny. You know what I mean? He just keeps on going. He's hard to put away. And as much as I think Kevin Natividad might be capable, I mean, you know, we got the little nod from Brandon there on the submission. I think that might be hard to actually pull off. Maybe he does it, maybe not. But
I'm not advising that. Over, like you said. Yeah.
My eyes tell me that Ricky Turcios won't be able to finish Kevin Natividad. And if Kevin is winning this fight, that he probably just kind of beats him up for 15 minutes. So I'm thinking over. It seems like better than picking a side potentially on this one.
Agreed.
All right. So we like the over on Ricky Turcios and Kevin Natividad. The next fight, though, is one that I am excited about. We've got a short notice replacement here. Miles Johns filling in here to fight Vince Morales, and Oral B just taking over my screen here. Thanks, Tapology, for that. They do not sponsor the show. Oral B, get the fuck out of here. This one's a real fun fight, man. Vince Morales, another Arizona boy, 11-6. Miles Johns,
Arizona.
12. Isn't he training out here? He's at a syndicate, I believe.
Yeah, Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Desert. All right, Desert Boy. I think his Tapology picture may be like hiking in Arizona or something. He's from around these parts anyway. He's training out at Syndicate MMA. He's got that big overhand right. Never figured out how to check leg kicks. It seems like that's a regular issue for Vince Morales in his fights. He's 3-5 so far in the UFC. Seems to be really reliant on having that power advantage. Throws everything big and looping, dips his head off to the side, swings heavies. He's really relentless. Like, that's the kind of thing, that toughness, that grit. He never stops moving forward, looking to end the fight with big power strikes. He'll have a 4-inch reach advantage in this spot. Miles Johns, your classic wrestle boxer, training out at Glory MMA, it sounds like, for this fight. Does everything with explosive power. I have tried to fade him a couple of times because he just seems to kind of fall off and die deep in the third round in fights, but he ends up being kill or be killed later because he will also go for broke and wreck people late in the fight once he starts to kind of slow down and make mistakes. And then he ends up kind of nuking people sometimes. He's coming off that first submission loss to Sexy Mexi in his last fight out. This one kind of smells like violence to me, Brandon. Another spot where maybe we don't pick a side. Right now, Miles Johns is -145. Vince Morales is a +125 dog. I think I have to side with Miles Johns. And I know a lot of you are going to be shocked in the chat because I never pick Miles Johns. But Vince Morales just hasn't improved the way I would like to see. His game hasn't evolved further the way I kind of thought that it would. And if he's going to be the same old guy that steps in there every single time, I think someone like Miles Johns should be able to get it done. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm right here with you. I know these guys both pretty well. The last time we picked against Vince, he freaking nuked Luis Smolka. That was a bad one, right? But I think I can cap Miles Johns pretty well. I think I've gotten almost every single one of his fights pretty down pat. I just worry about his volume, right? And I worry about his short little T-Rex arms. But the things that he does well is he wrestles, good counter wrestling, good wrestler. And he throws a lot of leg kicks, right? Well, we've seen Mr. Vince Morales. Hasn't he been stopped by leg kicks before?
Yeah, he was the Gutierrez TKO by leg kicks.
Yeah, literally never checks a leg kick. And, why start now? Why start now this deep into your MMA career? Why ever stop, doing a leg kick? So I think this does kind of come down to cardio a little bit. But, man, I don't know how long that Vince Morales is going to last. I think I do admire Krause for his game plan. So if he's at Glory MMA, I think they're going to come out with a good game plan. Leg kicks, wrestling. I think I like Miles Johns a lot in this spot. Vince, I think, is a solid guy. He's gotten much better over the years, but you can't trust Syndicate MMA to ever have a good game plan ever. As a matter of fact, they're probably the worst big gym on planet Earth. Like the worst game planning, the worst everything. Like they just sit in there and just, I don't know what they do, just fumble around. But I got Miles Johns here.
Okay. All right. Agreement here on Miles Johns. And man, it's just one of those ones where I don't know. My guy MMA locker room knows what's up. He's like, wow, what? Because
we love Tony Gravely.
What's that?
I said we love Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely is awesome. He's very good.
See, and I've bet against Tony Gravely a multitude of times, and that's what he's
always
going to
be wrong
there for.
Yeah.
And I'm learning from my lessons, folks. Like I'm finally taking some positive steps. I'm checking leg kicks. Okay. That's what I'm doing. I'm checking leg kicks. I'm going to pick Miles Johns here on Saturday. Next fight up, Jennifer Maia taking on Myra Moroz. And you know what? We got to do just a full pause and stop. Myra Moroz, the first ever UFC fighter to grace the pages of Playboy magazine. Apparently she's on the cover, landed the cover. So got to give her props there for that. She is 11-3 taking on consummate contender Jennifer Maia, who is a 19-9-1. Jennifer Maia, we know I've ripped what's left of my hair out backing this girl, Brandon, because she has such good BJJ, such good jiu-jitsu, and she refuses to wrestle. For the love of God, if she would ever just take she took a round off the champ. Like, she found herself in top position against Valentina Shevchenko and still refuses to shoot double legs. I don't know what the deal with Jennifer. She's your classic BJJ practitioner who's like, if we fall to the ground, great. But otherwise, I'm not going to try to force it there. So she's a decent boxer. She hits pretty hard. She's tough. She's durable. She'll keep walking forward. Her arm bar is disgusting. She snaps people's arms off if it gets to the ground, but she'll lay on her back looking for that opportunity, unfortunately. She's 1-3 in her last 4. Last win coming over Jessica Ai. And Maryna Moroz is coming off that big grudge match win over my girl Mashka, where, frankly, horrible takedown defense, and they knew that. They had the inside game plan coming in for that one. Mashka needed a paycheck, and she got tapped out pretty quick because of that. Moroz is training over at ATT, and I wouldn't expect her to keep getting those kinds of takedowns, especially against someone like Jennifer Maia, unless that's like all she's drilling. Like, maybe she's going to get better, but her takedowns in the past have not come that easily. She does have nice straight punches, good high pace. She's a Chukagian type. She'll, kia every time she throws something. And she was part of the Ukrainian national boxing team. So I don't have a whole lot to complain about Maryna Moroz, but this line is weird to me. The fact that she's coming in a -165 favorite over the proven contender Jennifer Maia, +145, very odd. The only thing I can say, Brandon, is this year we're seeing a mass exodus. Like, every time you get a young contender who's coming up against an old dog that's on a skid, the old dogs are just getting wrecked in 2022. I'm not sure what's in the water, but like, usually some of these higher caliber fighters will bounce back and they'll cause some problems, and they'll veteran savvy some of these young fighters. It's not happening this year. Like, they just keep getting wrecked. So again, a weird line where I feel like maybe we should be backing the dog, but I'm a little uncomfortable to do so. This fight could play out very, very closely, in my opinion, especially if Moroz uses that 3-inch reach advantage correctly and Jennifer Maia refuses to go to the ground. We're going to have a boxing fight. Moroz probably wins that. What do you think?
Really? I actually think Jennifer Maia's boxing is much cleaner, much better than Maryna Moroz. This is one I didn't tape as recently, so I'm not going to go crazy on this one, but Jennifer Maia does drive me nuts because she loves to plant her back. And if we know anything about anything, is that jiu-jitsu is not real. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually exist. So I'm always going to choose the wrestler over the jiu-jitsu person, because that doesn't work in MMA. It's just fake. It's a figment of your imagination, right? And we've seen that time and time again. Jennifer Maia is very skill-wise, she's very talented, not overly athletic, but she's very talented and just refuses to use it. She won't box on people she needs to box against. She can't wrestle. That's the other problem. And you were saying, why don't jiu-jitsu people wrestle? And that's the problem, is because when we come up, a lot of us are guard players, right? So we don't ever learn how to wrestle. And then by the time it's time to learn the top, it's okay, we're going to sweep and come to the top. Well, doing a sweep in MMA is not so easy. You get punched in the face, right?
It's hard.
And so, yeah, the wrestling never really developed. And it's really rare that you have somebody who can do both. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this. Did you pick against Petrosky last week?
No. I was too scared to bet him against him. I didn't trust him at that favorite line. I picked him to win. But like, I did not trust that number.
That was the only one I think I got right all night. And that was my favorite spot on the entire card, because really what's setting apart those like Daniel Gracie guys from the rest of the MMA and why they're so successful is because those guys are jiu-jitsu guys who can wrestle. And their jiu-jitsu is actually phenomenal. Everyone wants to go in on like, these armbar girls, like Polyana Viana. That was one of the easiest ones against that girl that we're not going to talk about, because that girl has good jiu-jitsu from the top, right? And then if you get somebody who's on bottom just throwing up arm bars, like if you get armbarred in MMA, it's time to like look at hanging it up, honestly. And the second I get armbarred, I'll just quit. I'll be done. All right, no more for me. Because it's just so hard to do, right? And so that's what's kind of separating those guys and making them so good. So the liability that you always have with women's MMA is that a girl's going to end up on her back and then she spends the rest of the round there. And that's just such a big liability. And Jennifer Maia doesn't have the fight IQ to know like, oh, maybe I should get up and start boxing again. I actually think her lateral movement is very, very good. And I think Moroz is going to have a tough time tracking her down. And it's going to take her maybe a round or two to get close. And once she gets close, puts her on the fence, then I think it's game over for Maia. I think that's where Moroz is going to start winning rounds. But on the outside, I actually am not really impressed with Maryna. A lot of these girls have these fake accolades, right? They're not fake or what, I don't know, whatever you could call it. But like Bia Malecki was a 9-time Muay Thai world champion, and her Muay Thai is awful. It is so bad, and she got jacked by everybody, right? So to say, oh, I'm a Ukrainian, whatever. Come on. I mean, I can see your skills. I see you just plodding around. You don't move like a boxer. You don't act like a boxer. I actually think Jennifer Maia's boxing is way cleaner, way faster, but her fight IQ is bad, whereas Moroz probably does more with less. She's a lot smarter, higher fight IQ, but maybe less actual skills, if that makes any sense. So just off the previous times I've taped them, I'm going to go Moroz here.
Okay. All right. I'm going to kind of lean the same way here with you on Moroz. Like, I've already lost enough money trying to back Jennifer Maia. The fight IQ is such a problem that I can't do it again. I'm probably not betting this fight, period, because I don't like that number, but I will pick Moroz to go ahead and get her hand raised. All right, everybody, we got 94 live viewers on the show right now. Do us a favor, smash the like button, help us out. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, pay some bills. We'll be right back. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. We're joined here by Brandon Olivas breaking down UFC Vegas 65, and Monday Night Football is about to kick off. You guys have no idea how big a fan I am right now of the Washington Commanders, because after my Vikings beat the Bills, all I heard was the Eagles own you. The Eagles are still going to own you. The Eagles this, Eagles that. You just wait. You just wait. If the Commanders come in, take your lunch money, and beat them as 11-point favorites, I'm going to be so happy. You guys won't hear enough of me, or you will hear way too much of me online if that happens. All right.
Hey, is Jay-Z about to buy the Commanders? Is that who he's about to buy?
I think. Is that a thing that's happening? I know Ryan Reynolds is trying to buy the Ottawa Senators, which is fun, but...
Oh, I forgot you're a hockey man. I love me some hockey. Yeah, if Jay buys the Commanders, I'm a Commanders fan.
I hear you. You know what? I'm a closet Commanders fan as is. Like, I got Antonio Gibson in my Dynasty Fantasy draft a year or two ago. And ever since then, I've watched every Commanders game because I've been rooting for his points and kind of like them now just because I keep watching, and they're fun, man. Whether they fall behind or they get ahead, their games are never boring. All right, everybody.
All right.
We're going to dive on into the next fight here. We are talking about Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on Charles Johnson. And Brandon, I'm gonna need you to slow me down. I'm gonna need you to kind of keep me on the right track here, because I know I'm coming off just an awful week. I'm coming off getting reverse swept. I'm coming off of dumping units. My year has never been worse. I feel like this is the spot. Like this is the spots. Like, I've been waiting for them to match up my guy Charles Johnson since his last fight. He's 11-3, lost his debut, taking on Muhammad Mokaev, and got mauled in that spot. Like, people just remember this guy getting dragged by Muhammad Mokaev. But frankly, I feel like he's one of these guys that belonged in the UFC a while ago. You know, you look back at his regional tape, and, you know, one of the 2 losses he had prior to getting to the UFC was to freaking Brandon Royval, who's a top contender now that he's gotten to the organization. That's one of those ones where you're on the verge of getting your UFC shot and you take a step back to the wrong guy, puts you back a ways. He's an incredible talent. Like, he keeps a good pace, got good relentless wrestling. He works and kind of breaks opponents. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage here, takes you down. He's got late like TKO victories because people just can't hang with the pace and the pressure. And even in that Muhammad Mokaev fight, everybody was expecting like the round 1 finish. Everyone was expecting him to get just kind of ran through, and him making it 15 minutes and kind of being bored with the takedown defense, shows that was really all Muhammad Mokaev could do, was just kind of hold him down. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, 1-4 in his last 5, coming off a very close split decision to my guy Jeff Molina. Could have gone the other way. It's one of those volume versus control type of fights where it was close. You could have argued it either direction, but he's got a 50% takedown defense rating. He always fights close with his opponents. He kind of fights to the level of his opponents. So, if he's taking a step up, he'll still compete. If he's taking a step down, he'll kind of let it go just a little bit. Zhalgas does. He's 34 years old. He's kind of getting to that point where I feel like you see fighters kind of fall off just a little bit. I mean, he got into the UFC off a split decision, if that tells you. He's always in very close, very, very close, tight fights. Man, I think this is kind of the coming out party here for Charles Johnson. I think this is his opportunity to kind of wash the bad taste out of his mouth from that last fight. He's currently a -160 favorite, +140 on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And I'm on the favorite side here. And I'm very, very tempted to go big on this spot, even though I don't have many bullets left in the clip.
Yeah, after a few weeks. Who's the favorite here? Charles Johnson?
Charles Johnson is the favorite, yes.
What's the line?
-160.
What was the tape that you really liked of Charles Johnson, if I can ask?
So collectively, kind of all of it. Like, I just like his process. I like the way that he continues to grind on people, the way he sticks to people. He's pretty active with his ground strikes and attacks. Like, once he gets people down, he doesn't necessarily just sit on you. He will hunt for, chokes. He's got like a recent anaconda choke that he landed. Like, I think he's just well-rounded. He's a guy that's well-rounded, decently talented. And I think he can out-grind Zhalgas, who typically has been kind of a grinder.
I would love to give you the vote of confidence here. I know Charles Johnson super, super well. I picked him against Mokaev, but I can't do it here. And here's why. Let's look at Charles Johnson's record, if that's okay, for a minute. Okay. So he beat a bunch of guys we don't know at the beginning. He lost to Sean Santella. No big deal there. He lost to Brandon Royval. Now, I haven't seen the fight, but keep in mind, Brandon Royval at the time is not a good striker. He's not amazing now, but he wasn't good back then. Couldn't wrestle and pretty much just a jiu-jitsu guy. And Charles Johnson has decent enough takedown defense and much better striking. So how did he lose that fight? Very confusing to me, right? Then the next fight, right? We got some boxing fights, and then he came back, right? And he started fighting Carly Pangalinana. I can't wait to fight Carly. I will fuck Carly up because that Carly is fucking horrible. And what I mean by that is he comes out, he throws crazy punches for about a minute and a half. I think he rocked Charles Johnson in the fight. And then, tries to wrestle a little bit, gasses out after 2 minutes, and then Charles can do whatever he wants with him. So watching that film is almost useless because you have a guy that's just going to beat himself after 2 minutes. To give you an idea how bad Carly Pangalinana is, he just lost to a guy who lost 11 fights in a row between boxing and MMA and was like 40 years old, Meffy Monteroso. Okay. So I just don't love that. I mean, it's a good win. He's got to beat who's in front of him, but to say like, oh man, he looked amazing. The Yuma Horiuchi fight, I thought he lost that fight. I had a big bet on Charles in that fight. Didn't think he won that fight. I thought Yuma beat the shit out of him and won that fight pretty clearly, and they gave it to Charles split. He beat João Camilo, who's been a career journeyman, and then he beat Carlos Mata, who again is going to give him the fight that he wants, right? Charles Johnson's a foot taller than Carlos Mata. Very good fight, very back and forth, tons of action, but that's giving him the exact fight that he wants. Now, the thing that I see Charles struggle with is guys who go up and down, up and down. Now, I think people are really hard on Zhalgas. I actually really like Zhalgas striking. I think it's much better than people give it credit for. And the thing that he is he's a freaking grinder. He throws these big hammers over the top. He'll shoot in on takedowns, and then he's back to throwing hammers over the top. The guy never gets freaking tired, for the pace that he fights. It's unbelievable what he does. And I think he's a much better wrestler than Mokaev, if you want me to be honest. Mokaev wrestles like folks. Oh, yeah. Now, grinding and honestly, I do. Because it's a different style. Mokaev wrestles like a folk style wrestler. He shoots from his knees. He shoots from long distance. And then he's kind of adapted it to MMA where he's going to start hanging on your hips. Where Zhalgas is a mean blast double. And then if people work up and get it, now he's grinding on the fence and he's dragging you back down. I think this is a bad matchup for Charles. And it's not to say Charles won't be successful. I think he's a top 10 guy easily, right? He's got all the skills in the world, but I think sometimes that Charles Johnson's ego takes over, and he doesn't have the best chin of all time. So, you know, if this were me writing Zhalgas game plan, I'd beat Charles Johnson easy, right? It's just faking up and down. And he's got that natural kind of bounce and that natural movement, right? You're faking a shot, overhand, you're faking the overhand. Now you're going to a shot and you're just grinding this dude for 3 freaking rounds. You're tagging him on the feet. You're throwing these big bombs. Zhalgas just signed a new contract, right? How many guys get a new contract after they go 1-4? Pretty crazy. I think he arguably could have won a few of those split decisions. But just stylistically for me, I think it's a really tough matchup for Charles. I don't even think Zhalgas needs the takedowns, right, to win, to be successful. Neither did Mokaev. I think he's just got to be forward pressure. You know, Charles is going to move and dance on the outside, but Zhalgas over the top. Could I see Charles win? Absolutely, right? He'll come out and freaking starch him in a round, right? Kind of like Alberg and Negumereanu. I could see that fight playing out as well, but man, this is a really tough one for me. Man, my heart, my brain wants to say Charles Johnson, that they're teeing him up. This is a, hey, thanks for fighting Mokaev. And then that's heart kind of really what it felt like to me, Zhalgas. Right? Yeah. I don't even know why they would have made that fight anyways. A multiple time defending LFA champion coming in to fight their golden boy. It's like you're killing off one of these guys already.
I said that when they made the fight. I was like, why would you take the multi-time defending LFA guy and throw him to the wolves like that? Usually you want to build that kind of a resume, that kind of a star. I guess unless they were trying to osmosis that, you know, that hype over to Mokaev or something. It felt weird. It seems like this is a get back on track spot.
Yeah, I'm just to be different and just to be cool and exciting for the show. I'll go Zhalgas on this one. I kind of like Zhalgas.
Well, instead of being cool and exciting, you're being terrifying for the guy who really wanted to go to war here with Charles Johnson. So, no, man, folks, hey, this is why Brandon's on the show, all right? Like, you all know I'm your friendly neighborhood degenerate. I bring people on here that are much smarter than I am. That breakdown was just delicious. So thank you very much for sharing the knowledge with us, Brandon. And now I'm going to be stuck trying to decide what I want to do this week because I'm not nearly as confident.
Sorry.
No, hey, I'd rather you tell me and have me keep some money in my pocket than you not tell me because you want to, buddy me on my podcast. I'd rather not go down with the ship. That sounds much better to me. Next fight up, we're talking Jack Della Maddalena taking on Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. And you know what? We just talked about a fight that I felt like was a get back on track type of fight. This one gives the exact same smell to me here, Brandon. Jack Della, super crazy boxing pace, rips people to the body. I love the way he attacks his opponent's body. Good takedown defense, solid ability to scramble. I mean, Ameev had him deep in that choke in his last fight, managed to survive and work his way through that, and then just drops shells on people when they are hurt. Like, if people are damaged at all, backing up, covering up, Jack Della will eat your breakfast. Danny Hot Chocolate, 18-6. I have no idea how that Trinaldo fight didn't get stopped. I was floored by the fact that he was able to kind of dig deep and survive that fight. He's just kind of middle of the road at this point. Danny Roberts is 4-4 in his last 8, and it kind of feels like his durability is starting to slip a little bit, especially after that last battle. We've got a massive favorite here in Jack Della Maddalena, and I can't argue with it. Minus 450, plus 375 the comeback on Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. And I kind of feel like this is a finish spot where you can take Jack Della inside the distance or something like that. I think he probably destroys the body of Hot Chocolate and gets out of there with a big win.
Man, I am so with you. So, I like to go on these rants sometimes, and almost every time I go on a rant, these people lose. Like, I used to go on rants about freaking Choi all the time. Choi loses. Jimmy Crute loses. All these people, man. So I got to like temper myself now. But, here's the difference. Like, when I first started this, I used to be like upset with guys like you and guys like Locke, like, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They're not in the gym every day. Right now, you just have fun with it. It is what it is. Right? I don't care that much. But here's one place where I do see things that maybe people don't see. The big thing when Jack was going to fight Ameev, right? Everybody was on Ameev. They're like, Jack's not the truth. Jack can't grapple. Jack has no wrestling. I was like, are you guys fucking crazy? Did you guys watch the Angelusa fight? He's actually a phenomenal grappler. He knows what he's doing. He made every right decision the entire time. Got caught in deep stuff, and you can see he's a guy. He's just fucking game. Man, I'm in love with Jack. Like, He's my favorite fighter in the UFC right now, like, period. I freaking love Jack. I got to be, I cornered Vanessa for her fight when she fought in LA on the pay-per-view card, right? And that was Jack's debut. That's when he fought my boy, Petey Rodriguez. Fuck, Jack just has swag like nobody's business. This guy is just what everybody wants to be as a fighter. Doesn't give a fuck. He's just so good at boxing. He's so good at jiu-jitsu. I think one of his coaches is Dan Kelly, right? Is that the old judo guy? That guy is the toughest son of a bitch of all time, right? And
I miss old Dan Kelly.
Oh my God, he was so fun to watch. You would just think he's getting starched every fight. He's just a tough old bastard. I mean,
him and Alexi, man, I'm gonna miss those guys.
Yeah. It just was incredible. So, man, Jack really just has the goods. His boxing is insane. For how he's built, his cardio is unbelievable. He reminds me of a guy like Fiziev, right? Everyone wants to talk about how Fiziev has bad cardio, and you guys are tripping. You guys are out of your minds. Fiziev fights at such a freaking high pace, and he still keeps going. He's got insane cardio for how he's built and how he fights, right?
I've given up on the Fiziev cardio argument. I'm done.
Everybody needs to stop, right? We always say that for how they fight, that's a big difference. You can have guys that aren't built like that gas out after a round, i.e. Claudio Puelles, right? That guy should be a cardio machine, but people don't know how to fight. Jack knows how to fight. Jack can wrestle. Jack's jiu-jitsu is excellent. And I say it's not real, but it's real when it applies. Jack is the goods, man. Jack is going to be a superstar. Honestly, what weight class is he? 185?
I believe it's 185.
Who's going to beat Jack at 185? I mean, this guy can do everything well. Like, without him getting just clipped over the top, I don't know of anyone beating him. It's
170.
Even worse. Yeah. Who's going to beat Jack? I don't see many people.
Jack feels like a Patty. He feels like a Connor. He feels like, one of these guys that the UFC is going to get behind, push, give good matchups, and he's just going to get too good. Like, you can see maybe a hole or two, but by the time someone gets there, it's going to be too late. You know what I mean? I'm right there.
What hole can you see, though? I mean, there's I watch film.
I'm saying, like, the grappling. We were all talking about the wrestling and the grappling and stuff. It's too late. Like, you give this guy 4 months and it's already over. Like, you're not going to get him with the grappling anymore.
Yeah, this guy is so talented, so good. The only way he's going to lose, like I said, is some bomb over the top, some errant punch. This guy really is the goods. And, I like me some Danny Roberts. I picked Danny Roberts against Trinaldo, thinking that would be an easy spot because Danny, I think, is solid too. It's not going to be a close fight, guys. Jack is definitely the goods.
Yeah, that was eye-opening for me, man. I think that was the Phoenix card. I was there. I picked freaking Danny Roberts, and I was there, and the whole time I was just like, oh my God. Like, I feel that was one of those ones where it could not have gone worse. Like, every advantage I thought he had was the opposite direction. Uncle Trinaldo, man, he just doesn't quit. He's going to be the new 40-year-old guy that just never goes away. Captain Brazil over here in the UFC. All right, man. I love it. We linking up here on this one. I think it's going to be quick. I mean, round 1, round 2, Maddalena type of showcase spot, in my opinion. We'll see what happens. Next up, big exciting fight here. Cody Brundage taking on Rodolfo Vieira. A fight that I never knew I needed. Two guys that I've got kind of a spotted history with. I feel like I've had a really, really good read on Rodolfo Vieira. I've had a similarly awful read on Cody Brundage. My guy Lou Bea in the chat. I know you're there, Lou, and you can hear me. I think he's going to have Cody Brundage on his show this week. He's got the inside track with Factory X and my guy Cody over there. I'm going to have you apologize to him for me for my previous, non-belief of your boy, because it's funny. Brandon, he followed me on Twitter. Like, Brundage seems like a cool dude, follows me on Twitter. The same week I decided to pick against him, boop, immediately unfollowed. I was like, fuck. I hate when fighters get the picks and they get out of dodge because of it. I don't blame him. But Cody seems like a really good dude. And he seems like he's got a decently high ceiling. He's 8-2. Got into the UFC with some short notice jumping, the UFC likes to pull, but he's on a 2-fight win streak after dropping those, the first couple of fights there. The William Knight fight on the Contender Series, hard to come back from, that kind of a knockout the way we've seen Will Knight be. And then lost the decision to Maximov on short notice, but that's the one, man. You go back and you watch that fight. Like, I know Nick's not in the UFC anymore, but the longer that fight went on, the more Brundage was getting into it. And that was a short notice opportunity as well. He was starting to land big power shots. He was starting to hurt Nick Maximov. He busted him open with the elbows. Like, he was taking over deeper in that fight. I was really impressed with Brundage's ability to handle that kind of a wrestling pace and still be able to be there in that third round and throw back and hurt his opponents. And, Nick Maximov wasn't everything we dreamed of him being, but still very impressive performance. And the Dalcha fight, man, I mean, the guillotine out of nowhere got the win. That's the kind of thing where I was annoyed. I was calling it fluky, that kind of thing, but dude finds a way to win. And then the Tresean Gore fight, I was so big on Tresean Gore. I lost a pile that night thinking that Gore was going to be the one to be able to handle him, and then just absolutely starched him with one big shot. I don't know exactly what Cody Brundage is, but I know he's big. I know he's strong. I know he hits hard. I know he's got a decent gas tank. I know he's fighting at Factory X where he's learning. I know he's got decent jiu-jitsu. So it's one of those things where I've doubted this guy and he continues to prove me wrong. Big jump up here, though. Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, 8-2, coming off the beating my boy Chris the Action Man Curtis put on him. And one of the things that really jumped out to me in that fight, or actually after that fight, Brandon, he did an interview where he was like, he wanted to go down. Like the body shots, the body work from my guy Action Man, he was like, I wanted to just sit down. And he just willed himself through the pain to stay in that fight. A lot of people had the knockout prop, and he cost them because he somehow pulled that fight to a 15-minute decision. Impressive stuff to have that kind of dig deep durability there from him. But at the end of the day, like K1 Rodolfo is just kind of an imaginary thing. He's got a power jab, and that's about it. Big, strong, muscly guy. And my guy Mushroom is telling me this fight is canceled. I'm just now like, 90% of the way through the breakdown, and Mushroom's telling me the fight is canceled. I didn't see that it was canceled. I'm just going to go ahead and finish it real quick since I'm already almost all the way done. If this fight were to take place, Brandon, I think that Rodolfo Vieira is very live early, but you could kind of end up with a fluffy situation where he gets tired the deeper the fight goes. Because frankly, I don't think his striking is something to write home about, and Brundage is getting better. And then if Brundage survives the ground transitions and he showed off good, decent counter wrestling, good, decent submission defense, if he didn't get subbed early, I would think Brundage could kind of work his way back into the fight. Not one that I was super high on because, like I said, I haven't picked any Brundage fights well at all recently. So probably wasn't going to have a bet, but that's kind of the way I see it going. I think it would be a Rodolfo submission early, and if he doesn't get that sub, then Brundage would be live for kind of a later finish or maybe a decision.
All right. So in theory, this fight is canceled. Good
to know.
Man, you are so wrong on this one. You are so completely wrong.
Oh shit. Okay.
This wouldn't even be a close fight at all. I hope this gets rescheduled. And you know what? Cody follows me on Instagram or looks at my stories and likes my shit too. Sorry, Cody. I'm sure you're a super nice guy.
He seems like a nice dude.
Yeah, I don't think this fight would really be that close. There's a big difference between Action Man and Cody Brundage, who's jumping guillotines as a D1 wrestler. So we don't need to talk about it too much. This fight canceled, but I don't even think this would have been a close fight at all. I think you guys are overstating the cardio, just like Fazeev, right? He's gone 3 rounds hard with Action Man, maybe a little bit tired, but he survived. His jiu-jitsu is out of this world, crazy good. I think his wrestling is actually way better than Cody Brundage. I think he hits harder. I just think he's better in almost every single other area. And Cody makes horrible decisions. So in theory, I think this would have been Rodolfo super easy.
Okay. I mean, I want to just say, I guess I wasn't that far off because I felt like it would be Rodolfo early, but I hear you though, given maybe a little, I gotta save a little bit of face here, Brandon.
All right. We'll take the next one.
It's okay. It's canceled anyway. I'm just going to edit this out of the show so nobody has to see how wrong I am. Next fight up, Muslim Salikhov.
Unless you're right.
Unless I'm right, then it's staying in. Damn it. Next fight up, Muslim Salikhov is taking on Andre Fialho. And this whole card just seems like recency bias, right? Like every single one of these fights is like, well, we just saw this, so this is probably like, that's kind of what this feels like, man. We just saw Salikhov get absolutely nuked by the Leech. And same thing with Andre Fialho. Both guys coming off of big L's. And that's, man, my shining high point for the year of our Lord 2022 was calling that round 2 KO Jake Matthews over Andre Fialho. He's a glass cannon. Brandon. Like he's one of these guys that gets in your face, and it seems like he gets hurt in every single fight, but he's just able to kind of work his way through his opponents. Big, insane power. Like if he gets in there and you let him put hands on you, he will absolutely wreck you. But like Cameron Van Camp had him hurt in that first round, and he managed to, survive the stank leg and then came back and ended Cameron Van Camp's life. But Jake Matthews, the kind of slick, skilled style fighter to make him miss, make him work, drag the fight out, hurt him a bunch. And that's how you finish this guy. Like you got to kind of out savant him. Muslim Salikhov, even though he's the king of Kung Fu, another one of these guys I feel like is kind of winding down, twilighting his career a little bit. He's 38 years old. He likes to have that kind of low volume style. He'll pull you into that low volume staring style, throws those crazy kicks, the spinning shots from outside and all that kind of stuff. But if none of that works, he's in close competitive striking matches every single time. Like you look at the Elizo Doleski Dos Santos split decision, that kind of thing. I mean, this is one of those ones, man, where I would just bet violence. Like one of these guys is getting nuked. That seems like the way this fight goes. Both of them, I have questions about their durability at this stage of their careers. Both of them have crazy knockout finishing upside. I'd be looking violence, and I guess a slight lean towards Andre Fialho, just being the younger guy, being able to kind of bounce back and get back on track. But I don't want to disrespect the king of Kung Fu. So I'd be saying violence slightly into Andre Fialho. What about you?
This one seems like another easy one too. And this fight really, this hurts my heart. Just me personally as a fighter. Like I said, I watch a ton of film, and actually one of my biggest inspirations and a guy that I've tried to take a lot of stuff from is Muslim Salikhov. Just his striking is so beautiful, how he's kind of in and out, that little in and out motion to draw people in, and then he counters and throws counters off that. I love that. And then on the other side, it's Andre Fialho. So I think everybody's got Andre Fialho completely wrong. Like I see a lot of people break down Andre Fialho. They can't get it right. They don't understand what he's doing. And he's a little bit arrogant, but it worked for him, 3 times in a row. And then he finally lost against a guy who is just very good and actually has pretty decent boxing and is a vet. But what Andre does, and this is what a lot of guys do. And, we like to call him like the Sanford mainstays, right? There's only a few guys like, Shavkat is one now. You got Michael Chandler as a mainstay. Like you got the Sean Soriano is one of my favorite strikers. I love watching him fight. He's one of the mainstays there now, right? At Killcliff, whatever. And what they do is
stop changing the damn name, man.
I know it's driving me
crazy.
They
keep changing it.
But one thing that Fialho does, and not a lot of MMA fighters do this, right? If you really look at MMA striking, it is so rudimentary from where high level striking is. Like watch Glory Kickboxing. You're not going to see these guys do a million of the things that guys do in MMA, right? You're reaching with your hands, you're leaning back, chin up, half the time where people get knocked out, right? A lot of the Glory fighters are shelling up. They're what we do call car crashing, right? They're coming into their opponent because it's crushing that distance, so they're not getting hit flush, right? And then they're countering off breaks. One thing that Fialho does, I think, is just amazing, right? He tries to stay within range. So he's always able to fire back. So he kind of follows people around, right? And everyone's like, oh, he's just plotting, and they don't really see it. What really should be happening is these guys' punches are going like a centimeter from his nose, and then he's firing back. Sometimes he gets a little bit too confident and he wants to knock these guys out. And that's where half the knockouts come from, is when you're trying to kill somebody. Fialho tries to kill people. Yes. He always tries to kill people, right? Cameron Van Camp is not anywhere in his league. Cameron Van Camp is nothing to him. But you guys forget it's a fight. Like people get hit in fights. That's part of what happens in fights. We just saw this with Izzy, right? Izzy just got knocked out. He got hit. It's a fight. It's part of the game. Salikhov's old, right? Salikhov's old and he's got cardio problems, especially when people learn to press him. Well, this Fialho, what I think is so beautiful about Fialho's striking is he's a guy that presses, but he doesn't overextend himself on a lot of punches. His punches are very beautiful, like how he throws them. This is one of my favorite punches, and I've noticed this with the Killcliff guys that are the kind of the mainstays. When people throw lazy jabs, he follows with that too, right over the top, and that's how he's clipping people with a lot of his punches. But he tries to just stay right there in range. He slips, he parries. He just does a lot of things really, really beautiful. This is going to be a striking, like you guys aren't going to see me for a week. I'm going to be watching this fight for 10 weeks in a row because I just love the striking of both these guys. But at the end of the day, I think Fialho is just younger. I think he's got such insane power because if you look at it, right, a lot of these guys that are KOing people early, they're throwing everything, these crazy haymakers, and they're catching people. Fialho has this terrifying power where he's always on balance. He's never off balance, and he's still putting people out. These are not crazy knockouts where he's blitzing people. This is him picking people apart, breaking them down, and he's catching people with shots that they're not seeing. And I think he can wrestle. I think Fialho does a lot of stuff well. And, you know, yeah, he lost to Jake Matthews. He lost to Pereira. That was a close fight. I was there for that one.
Good fight.
It was a great fight. And you saw that, right? You saw kind of a high volume guy against a guy who's just patient, picks his shots, and has really good power. I love me some Salikhov. Again, he's one of my biggest inspirations just as far as his striking style, and I try to mirror that in my own game. I think Fialho's knocking him out, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close.
Like I said, I like violence. I'm glad to hear that. I feel like I'm on the right track there, man. We're both going to side with the younger man here in Andre Fialho. And let me tell you, I know what you're talking about with that power, man, because I, for whatever reason, had to get up during his fight when they were fighting here in Arizona. And I went to the bathroom. So I am 2 stories up through 2 walls of cement. And I heard the punch land. Like, I was not in the arena and I heard the thud, and you can hear the crowd just, oh, like that. I had to go back and watch the replay when Fialho landed that knockout. And that kind of, like, that power is terrifying. Like, body slams when later on in the fight, when the heavyweights were like slamming each other for takedowns, it was not as loud as when the punch landed. So I believe you when you say that Andre Fialho's got power. So I'm with you there. It's under for me. It's Fialho by me. And hearing what you've got to say, I think it's Fialho by knockout. I'll jump
Love
in
it.
on that.
Probably my favorite spot on the card, if I'm being honest.
Okay. All right. There you go, folks. Take notes. Take notes. All right. Next up, we've got Chase Sherman taking on Waldo Coreres-Acosta. And freaking, I'm going to have to like pay for Tapology Premium or some shit now because they ads all over the damn place. All right. Waldo Coreres-Acosta making a real quick turnaround, getting his butt back in here after a decision win over my favorite underperforming heavyweight, Jared Vanderaa. He comes in and his legs have got to be sore, Brandon. I think Jared Vanderaa actually had a really good game plan in that fight, and he stuck to it, and he kept battering the legs, and this guy like dug deep and was able to hang in the fight and landed some power shots and busted up the nose of Jared Vanderaa. But shit, that was like 2 weeks ago. His legs have really got to still be like bugging him after that, and Chase Sherman does not mind a good leg kick. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out with almost an identical game plan and it has some effect here. Now, Chase Sherman, the Vanilla Gorilla is nothing to write home about. I'm sorry. Like, I know we love the guy, but broke that 4-fight losing skid with his win over Jared Vanderaa. Very impressive, right? Good, solid win. Knocked him out in round 3. But Jared Vanderaa is not long for the UFC, unfortunately, even though I continue to believe that he's better than he is. And, I've drained a lot of money this year trying to bet Jared Vanderaa in these stupid fights. But Waldo Coreres-Acosta, he's a big guy with decent boxing, good power, kind of, Diaz Bros people in there, likes to talk shit, likes to get in their face, likes to have that attitude, get you going and off balance a little bit. Fast counters. Like, for a heavyweight, this guy's got really, really fast hands. Good fight. And I can't argue with Waldo Coreres-Acosta being the favorite in this spot, coming in off of the performance that he had in his last fight. Minus 185, though, seems a little steep for me in kind of a mid to low level heavyweight fight. Talk to me about this one, Brandon. What do you see? What do your eagle eyes see?
Well, this is one that's just a big pass for me. There's just so many question marks on both guys. And so I guess we can start. Nice. Look at people.
Thank you for the donut, Iron Eagle.
How we get money? We have a podcast. We don't know how to work this thing. You have graphics. You got all this kind of cool stuff. People giving you money. That's
Pub
crazy.
Sports Radio, man. We got the hookup over here. You got to hit a certain number of followers, and then you can get tips and donations. And we make the graphics and we make the videos, and you can just upload them all to StreamYard. If you guys aren't on StreamYard, get on StreamYard. Like,
hey, tell me, I will leave Santino right now. Can you give me a job over there? I will leave him in the dust. I don't need him. All right, so let's talk about Waldo first. So I actually came up with Waldo. We used to fight in Iron Boy MMA here in Arizona. So like I would fight, he would fight the next event. He'd pack the house with 10 million Dominicans. It was crazy. What was so crazy about Waldo is he's always been kind of a middling guy, like a journeyman, like not really that good of a fighter. And then all of a sudden he's at the lab and he's on Contender Series and he's fighting for LFA titles. And he went from like not a good fighter, journeyman, to like somebody that I think the UFC is trying to push, which is pretty crazy to me. Now, as far as the leg kick thing, that's real. Literally, how long ago was it actually that he just fought Vieira?
It was, I want to say 2 events ago. Let me double check. But I mean, it was just literally a couple weeks ago. It was on 10/29.
3 weeks ago by the time they fight.
3 weeks.
Okay, that is crazy to me. And the reason I'm saying that you're super right about the leg kick thing. So I had my fight. I grappled almost the entire fight. I got kicked with 1 leg kick and I threw 1 leg kick. My shins and my knees were hurt for like 3 weeks after that. Like I could barely walk or move. Like I think my shin is still probably got a crack in it from my fight like 3 months ago. Like it just won't heal up. So to eat that many leg kicks from a big heavyweight, you're right. Like I know he wasn't training. I know he wasn't. He was sitting on the couch and now he's heavyweight, so he doesn't have to cut weight. And that's important. But then on the other side, do we want to trust Chase Sherman? I've put my faith in Chase Sherman so many times because I'm like, okay, he's at Kill Cliff. He's working with the boys. He's going to be so much better. And the guy's just not, he looks the part. He moves well for a heavyweight. He does all the things you would imagine like a top 5 heavyweight could and would do. And then he has horrible takedown defense and won't get up, or he's got a bad chin, or something happens. Everything in me wants to pick Chase Sherman again, but I see Waldo Coreres-Acosta just putting it on with a boxing pace. I could see him probably knocking out Chase Sherman, right? You can only fight somebody who wants to fight you. And weirdly, the beauty of Vieira is he just is there. And a lot of times I think that's what you need to do to beat Waldo, is just be there. If Jared threw his hand even an inkling more, he probably could have won that fight. But he, it's just what they value.
That's the last 3 Vieira fights, Brandon. If he just threw a smidge more the last 3 fights in a row, he probably wins.
Yeah. And so that's actually what my favorite trait about Vieira is. He just is there. And just being there is going to win you a lot of fights against guys who have bad cardio or make bad mistakes. But Chase Sherman is kind of the opposite, right? He's like there and then he's gone. Like it just, boom, I'm out of here. Like I thought it was going so good. I thought we were in this fight and then he's gone, right? My brain is telling me Waldo probably wins this and the UFC wants him to win and they're building him. I could see Chase winning this. I hate picking against my bare knuckle brethren, but I think I'm going to go Waldo here and I feel disgusting about it.
I'm in the same boat as you. I want to go right back to my fade of Waldo. I really do. But I just feel like that's wrong somehow. And trusting Chase Sherman, it's weird because I have no problem betting on Jared Vieira and then crying when he loses a split decision every time. But I refuse to put my money on Chase Sherman. Like that's just where I'm at for some reason. I believe that Chase Sherman, after getting a win, will what do they call it in like when it's like football? They'll turn back into a pumpkin, right? Like eventually. The fairy tale is over, the magic runs out, and you turn back into a pumpkin. I feel like we're pretty close to that happening. Chase Sherman got his win. Pumpkin season is coming right back around.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I believe in that kind of stuff. Like once people finally get that win, and now it's time to be over. Like you can't just keep pulling it off. Who was it last week that just had that? I'm like, oh, they got their win, and now it's time to start losing again. I can't remember who it was, but we'll figure it out. Anyways.
There's a couple of them right now. All right, everybody, we got just a couple fights left. Smash that like button for us. Brandon's seriously kicking ass and taking names over here and gracing us with his presence and ability to break down fights. So show some love. Iron Eagle out here with another $2 dono. Got to be pubbing, my dude. That's right, Iron Eagle. Always got to be pubbing. Thank you for supporting the channel and the show. All right, next up, we've got Ion Cutelaba taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. And I, again, have had a pretty decent run on both of these guys lately, Brandon. I've had a pretty decent run on these guys. I may be the only one on the planet that called Johnny Walker sub in that last fight with Ion Cutelaba. I'm not sure anybody else out there is insane enough to actually admit that they called that, but I did. And Kennedy has been a guy that I feel like is another one of these kind of slow burns, right? Like he's up and coming. He's at Fortis MMA. He's had a couple bad performances, but you see these flashes of brilliance. He's got that cheat code body type. He's taller than you. He's longer than you. He's tough We've seen the toughness. Now, he did get cracked and put down by Dao and Jung that one time after the weird, brawly fight that he had before that makes everybody question his durability. But he's shown some toughness before. He's shown some ability to grind. In his last fight against Karl Roberson, I know Karl's nothing to write home about, but he showed an ability to wrestle. He showed good fight IQ. Like, don't mess with the guy winging heavies. Take him down and sit on top of him. Like, I think he's a rounding out prospect. I know he's 30 years old, so we're at the point where we got to stop calling him a prospect. He needs to be, full-blown completed fighter at this point, but I do think he's kind of headed the right direction. Ion Cutelaba is kind of the opposite deal for me. Now, he's only 28 years old, so this guy is still, I can still call him a kid, even though he looks like he should be my uncle.
Wow.
Beat the brakes off me. Yeah, he's only 28. He's a kid. We can actually call Ion Cutelaba a kid, which is insanity. But he is coming off of a really bad run, man. The split with Dustin Jacoby, nuked by Ryan Spann and Ion Cutelaba and Johnny Walker. Like, the thing with Ion is he's a bully. Like, if he can bully you the way that he did Khalil Roundtree, like, you're in trouble. But he's a good hammer and a bad nail. Like, if you turn the tide on him, his cardio seems to give out. He will put himself in some bad positions. He will make some mistakes in the fight. Now, that's all stuff that with the right coaching staff, with the right team, you can fix that stuff. He's not a bad fighter. He's not a bad prospect. He's big. He's physical. He's strong, decent wrestler. But, I can't trust his fight IQ. Always go back to the Ankalaev fight. Literally got himself TKO'd by faking hurt. Like, you can't trust a guy like that. It's so hard to put your money on a guy that literally could lose you the fight doing nothing. I think I like Kennedy here in this spot as long as he avoids that big bomb, similar to kind of Johnny Walker did. If he avoids that big bomb, and especially if he's willing to engage in that wrestling, get some top time, I think he can outlast Ion Cutelaba and honestly, maybe even another submission, because Kennedy can just follow the Johnny Walker blueprint. Like, Johnny Walker was able to reverse position on Ion Cutelaba. He sticks his neck out there. He'll leave himself open. As soon as he took the back, it was over. I don't know how good Ion is at jiu-jitsu. It seems to be something that he's struggling a little bit with when he gets these, better players down there on the mat, and he always wants to wrestle. So it's going to end up on the mat. I do think Nchukwu is probably the side personally. What about you, Brandon?
This is, again, another tough one. Man, I wish we could do these shows and just chat, but never actually pick a side, because I hate being wrong. I love being right, but not as bad as I hate being wrong. And
true.
Hey, I don't know how these fights are going to turn out until after I watch it. Then I can tell you exactly what happened. You
need the Biff's playbook, where the almanac.
Yeah, I want to disagree on a couple things. Cardio, right? So again, when I first started, I had this resentment towards people who didn't fight. I'm like, how the fuck do they know? And one of the biggest buzzwords that always would drive me crazy would be cardio, right? Everybody's talking about cardio, right? But it can be improved, and it can be improved with literally just how you fight. So to say he has bad cardio, he's shown bad cardio in the past, but his most recent body of work, right? Let's go back to the Devin Clark fight. He looked much improved. He learned how to conserve himself. He learned to pick his spots, when to use energy, when not to use energy. And I thought he looked great in that fight, beat Devin Clark, right? And Devin Clark can wrestle. My question for you is how do you see Kennedy taking him down, getting on top?
I would think it would be kind of a reversal. I would think that capitalizing on a mistake that Ion made, just being the bigger guy, one of the things we see a lot is whoever's got the high ground when it comes to wrestling, especially up against the fence, if he ends up just kind of leaning on him and getting on top, getting a back take from that kind of a position, I don't expect Kennedy to come out and double leg Ion Cutelaba. Okay.
I was just wondering, because obviously MMA is so different. I've seen many Olympic champions get taken down in the training room, but I legitimately think that Cutelaba's wrestling is actually phenomenal. Like, his chain wrestling is phenomenal, and I think a lot of people should study him. That being said, at the end of the day, he's kind of a quitter, right? You watch a lot of these, it's like he's not even trying to get out of them. He's not fighting hands. He's not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, like when you're in a fight in the UFC, right? He's letting people get such advanced positions on him and then going, oh, shit, now I just got to tap. And he's not even trying. Look at, we talked about Jack Della Maddalena earlier. He was in some tight stuff. He was in a tight anaconda and a tight head and arm where weak people would have tapped to all of those. I think Cutelaba would have tapped before people would hop over, before people even start squeezing, right? He's like, all right, shit, I'm out of here. I'm done. And I think you're right. Kennedy is just so big and so strong. And whether you like it or not, that's a lot of weight to move around. If Cutelaba doesn't put him out in round 1, just having to move that big body that many times. And then the one thing that Kennedy does do good is he always keeps that high guard and he throws good straight punches, right? He's going to catch Cutelaba at some point, somehow, some way. If he has any semblance of a game plan, it's the second he's taken back, down, he's getting back up. He's going to stay at range, make Cutelaba work and work and work and work. And I think Cutelaba is going to have a really tough time getting around that range. The grappling upside is kind of hard for me to see with Kennedy just because Cutelaba, I really, really think is a very good wrestler. And one thing that works against good wrestlers is front chokes, and Span has a great front choke. So I don't think everybody's built like that. That's actually my style too, which makes me really happy. But I think Kennedy is the side here. I kind of like Kennedy's game, right? Especially in the division that he's in. He can let people swing on him. He keeps that high guard, waits till you're tired, and then now it's fair game. I'm going to use my athletic gifts against you. So just because Cutelaba's such a freaking quitter, I would go Kennedy. Kennedy's showing improvements. You got Chinny Cutelaba, who makes awful decisions but can wrestle his ass off against a guy who's probably not as good of a wrestler, but I don't even want to say good fight IQ, just neutral fight IQ. Not awful, but not amazing. So I'll go Kennedy on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad we mostly agree on those points, man. And honestly, the Devin Clark fight, like I knew that was one of those ones where I'm the biggest Devin Clark hater in the world. I know he can wrestle, but that's really all he's got at the end of the day. I feel like he's kind of my bottom of the barrel gatekeeper at 205 in the UFC. Like, I simply don't know that if you get past Devin Clark, you belong in the UFC. He's going to beat guys that are new. He's going to beat guys that don't belong. But frankly, I don't see him ever being more than a 500 fighter here in the UFC. So that one I was all about Ion Cutelaba in that spot, but that's his only win in the last little run here. I think this is a spot where Kennedy probably has the ability to follow the same game plan we've seen before. And honestly, I think Ion Cutelaba is going to get frustrated. You talked about those straight punches. Like if Kennedy just kind of like jabs and runs backwards for 5 minutes, Ion's going to get pissed and make a mistake because that's what he does. So glad we agree on that one. We will roll with Kennedy Nzechukwu. There we go. I said it right the first time. Butchered it the second time. Sorry about that, Kennedy. All right, everybody. Main event time. Talking big boys. Derek Lewis returning, taking on the Polar Bear. We have got Sergey Spivak. Heavyweight action here in our main event. Always a 5-round fight when there's no way in hell 5 rounds are ever going to be needed. One thing I want to point out in this fight is they opened the line at a pick'em. This was opened up at a pick'em price tag, and it has been smoked the Sergey Spivak side. He is minus 190 now over at Superbook Sports. You can get Derek Lewis at plus 170. And I know Derek Lewis has looked awful recently, 2-3 in his last 5. But man, this gives me Chris Daukaus vibes. He loses to Cyril Gane, looks awful. Everybody's off. Everybody wants to be all over Chris Daukaus. And that was, again, a spot that I'm really proud of because I jumped in on the buy low spot with Derek Lewis there, and he wrecked him. First round knockout. Sergey Spivak is a super young, fun contender, but he's not the type of fighter that we always see Derek Lewis lose to. A lot of people think the wrestling is the answer against Derek Lewis, but realistically, look at the guys that he's beating. Like Chris Daukaus, a guy with a decent ground game. He nuked Curtis Blades, a guy with a good ground game. He won a decision, God forbid, over Ilir Latifi, a guy with a decent wrestling game. It's these big, athletic, speedy power punchers that he's having a problem with. Sergey Pavlovich, Taitu Avasa, Cyril Gane. Those are the guys that are giving him trouble. Now, Sergey Spivak has the kind of wrestling game where if he can make you work, he'll drag you late, he'll drag you to the floor, he'll beat you up on the ground, he'll submit you, that kind of thing. But he's also been susceptible to getting cracked and getting hurt early. The Tom Aspinall fight, a perfect example a little while back. And I think Derek Lewis is a massive step up from Alexei Olenek and Greg Hardy as far as level of competition goes. This is the spot where I just wouldn't count Derek Lewis out personally. He shows up every once in a while and reminds us that he's the hardest puncher in the division and just crushes people. He's also got the fuck you get up game where no one else on the planet gets up like Derek Lewis does. Like, he eventually just says, okay, I'm going to stand up now. And it doesn't matter that you weigh 300 pounds. He still does it. I think Sergey Spivak makes sense at a pick'em price tag. I would not be laying minus 200 on him.
Oh boy. Man, I'm completely on the other side of this. So I think Lewis was like a big thing for people before I started really studying fights and getting into fights. And so people have this shine with Derek Lewis because he's come from behind so many times, and you fall in love with the interviews and you fall in love with this and that and this and that. I've just never understood the Derek Lewis thing. And again, because it's probably because I got into it, too late with him. I don't get it. Skill for skill, he's got nothing that it takes to really like win a fight, right? He's like low volume. He backs up to the cage, so that doesn't look good. He's got awful takedown defense. He's got almost no jiu-jitsu. Like, his actual skills are so rudimentary and horrible, and everything that wrong with what you'd ever want to win a decision in MMA. And Spivak's pretty much the opposite, right?
The opposite of that.
He does everything that you would want to win a decision. And I can't get behind. How old is Derek Lewis? 40 now? He's 40 years old?
I think he's 38.
37. Okay, so he's a little bit younger, but I'm never going to get behind 37-year-old Derek Lewis. It just doesn't even make sense for me. I think you got this young, fast super soldier in Sergey Spivak who can wrestle his ass off. His jiu-jitsu is actually way better than people think that it is. And fundamentally, as a striker, like, you see the Tom Aspinall fight. Tom Aspinall is a generational talent. He's not like anything that we've seen before. So losing to Tom Aspinall on short notice is not a problem to me. Spivak does things that we love well. He has a great jab, and he's got a great, two. He's got great straight punches. You measure Derek Lewis with the jab, and then you go whip him on his head. For how long I just went on about how good Kutalaba's wrestling is, Sergey Spivak is very, very good too. The way that he, throwing around Greg Hardy, just kept dogging him and dogging him and dogging him. The guy's impressive, man. He really is impressive to me, and he's gotten better with each fight. He looks a little less timid with each fight and just more comfortable. And I think, honestly, once he hits his stride, being comfortable, he's going to be a top 5 guy because of the wrestling, because of the jab. He just keeps it simple. He's got good cardio as far as the heavyweight division is concerned. He moves really, really well. I hate betting ever on somebody that has to do something. Derek Lewis has to land this one punch. He has to time something just right. And in fighting, I mean, that's such a hard thing to bet on. I think minus 190, if I'm being honest, like a lot of you guys, and I saw you kind of preaching about this today, like bankroll management, and so many guys spend so much time on the lines. And I think that's probably why the betting community hates me so much, because I'm kind of a Ronin, a Wild West. I don't know how to do units or whatever the hell that is. I just bet whatever I feel is justifiable for this thing. The odds, I'm whatever. I just try to pick winners as best as I can. 190 is, for me, it's kind of generous. Like, I don't know. I feel like Spivak in a real world should be like minus 300, minus 400. And I would still probably play him. I'd obviously parlay him with something, but he's younger. He's faster. He's better in every area of the game. Derek Lewis has money now. He's fat. He has to like land this one punch knockout. I got Spivak. I mean, Lewis has been knocked out his last fight in 55 seconds. And before that, what did he lose by? Let's see. Sorry, just pulling up his record. Then he lost by an elbow to Tai Tuivasa, which was a bad one. Chris Daukaus, everybody was going on and on about Chris Daukaus, but it's funny. Santino and I really knew the truth about Chris Daukaus. I chose Daukaus just because I thought his hands were going to get to Derek Lewis, but he's an undersized heavyweight, doesn't wrestle very well. And then everyone wants to go on about his jiu-jitsu black belt. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay for heavyweight, but it's not something to write home about, and it's not used very often, right? So you get a guy in Derek Lewis who's way bigger, way more athletic than Daukaus. I mean, that was inevitable. It was bound to happen. Yeah, he hits harder. Like, that was bound to happen. I don't think Daukaus should be really a heavyweight. He should be a light heavyweight at that, right? So I think a lot of his recent success is overplayed. The Curtis Blades one, I mean, damn, that was a great punch. I think if you recreated that fight 100 times, that's going to happen 4 out of 100. I don't think that's
the 1% result.
Exactly. And so I think when you're being real about this, Spivak does something that not a lot of other guys do, is he jabs. He actually throws out a jab. It's a measuring punch. He's big. He's long. He wrestles his freaking ass off. Man, I got Spivak here. I don't think this is going to be that close of a fight. Changing of the guard.
Okay, you know what, man? And I was just going to point out that, and my guy Justin Villegas in the chat saying that it was Reyes all over again. And I've been saying it, like, that's what we have seen all year. All year, we've been seeing the changing of the guard. And I have a hard time picking against Derek Lewis because of what we've seen him do, because of the comebacks, because of nuking people. Fast forward, 2-3 years, I expect Sergey Spivak to be a top fiver, like you were mentioning. I'm just afraid to lay that kind of chalk on him on Saturday. I'm actually not intending to bet this fight unless they give me a decent number on violence, because I could see this thing ending, in the second or the third round. Because if Sergey Spivak really does get his game going, that's going to be putting Derek Lewis on his back and then ground and pounding or submitting him. And then if Derek Lewis is winning this fight, it's catching Sergey coming in the way that he caught someone like Blades. So I kind of expect this fight to end early. I don't think it's going to go super late. However, I don't think I want a money line side personally. Like, I see the upside for Sergey Spivak. I don't want to get in front of the punching power of a Derek Lewis buy low spot. And you're right that Sergey Spivak is absolutely a better prospect than Chris Daukaus is. Maybe I'm looking a little too favorably back on my success for that Chris Daukaus spot, but it just kind of is scaring me off on this one.
One thing I think is really important too is you can't have feelings towards these people, right? That's when we tend to get in trouble. Like, Choi has always been my boy because I see the potential that Choi has. He's fast, he can strike, he's got good jiu-jitsu. I think Choi is good in so many places, and you fall in love with these guys and then you get married to them and they let you down time after time, and it blinds you for the matchup that's actually at hand. So, winning a bet on somebody is super cool, and then you pretend like you never knew them. You start fresh with each and every single matchup. I talked about last week, I think I'm the #1 Wellington Turman capper on planet Earth. Nobody, I guarantee nobody has spent more time on Wellington Turman than I have in my life. Ever. I'm the #1 capper on Earth with Wellington Turman. And yet again, last week, I crushed it again because you can't fall in love with these guys, right? He won me 15,000 one time. And then the next fight, I fade him, right? It's the way of the world. It's how you go, right? So I just think, you got to look at every matchup for exactly what it is.
Hey, that is great advice, man. And I am absolutely guilty of falling in love with a fighter and going back to the well when I probably shouldn't have. You got to be able to, in college, when I was coming up, they called it kill your babies. Like, you got to have no problem with, like, I created this thing and then just throw it in the trash can and start over. Like, that's something that I need to get back to basics on, and everybody else can definitely learn a lesson on that. Shout out our guy here in the chat, Iron Eagle, another $5 dono. Lewis, round 1 or 2, only play I can make here. Good freaking luck, man. Good luck. I hope you cash that ticket. But
I fell in love with a fighter once, and trust me, it never works out.
I can understand, Brandon. I am lucky enough. You know what? I feel your pain, because the other day I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw that Jillian Robertson has a boyfriend and they're off at like Hot Springs posting cute little and I'm like, oh, it should have been me. No, I hear you, man. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight to break down UFC Vegas 65. Brandon, my guy, thank you for your time. This was fun to chop it up with you and talk.
Thanks for having me on. I'm the big time now.
Thank you for bringing Vanessa along with you. Want to give you the floor. If you've got something to shout out, talk about your show, tell the people anything, like, have at it, man. What can we do for you?
Thank you so much for the platform. So if you guys don't know me, I run a podcast with Santino DeFranco. So if you guys are looking for our podcast, we're going to be, oh my goodness, can't get the hair right. We're going to do the same thing as what we're doing right now. We're going to do that tomorrow night. So if you want to hear Santino and I break down the fights, we also run a Discord and a Patreon. I thought last week was going to be my last week and ride off into the sunset. And I won $1 million last week. I won $1 million. And our Patreon and Discord blew up, and everybody was like, when am I going to get my million? When am I going to get my million? And guys, unfortunately, that's not just how gambling goes. You don't just instantly make $1 million. Like, it's taken a long time, right? So you just bet accordingly, be gentle. I lost, like, somebody was like, Olivas looks like the type to flex wins and hide losses. Like, I lost 30 grand last week. I just couldn't win a freaking bet at all. I got crushed. Made $1 million the week before that. So you take the good with the bad. But Santino DeFranco on YouTube, guys. You can follow me on Instagram, Brandan Olivas, just like it's spelled here, Brandan. Follow Santino.
I'll put all the stuff in the comment section. I'll put links to the video. I'll put links to the Twitter. We'll get you hooked up.
Cool. And that's all I got. Thanks so much for having me on. And good to see you. And go Yotes.
Hell yeah, man. Go Yotes. We've been kicking some ass lately. It's been very surprising how good we've been the last couple of weeks.
Veg is the best goalie in the league. No doubt about it.
That kid is special. He really is. If he can stay sharp, he's gonna be a big deal going forward. That team they're doing the rebuild right, man. I got to get my ass over there to the arena and watch one in person. I can't wait to get over there and get a
electric. You got to go. It's electric.
I'm sure. Actually, it's funny. I'm probably gonna go. I'm trying to hook up with James Lynch. All you guys know, regular guest on the show, James Lynch, the interview UFC guy. He's a big hockey fan. He's got some family out here. We might actually hook up and go watch a Yotes game together. So that'd be a good time. Awesome. Brandon, again, nothing but respect, man. Love you. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I need to understand though. You got to ask Santino. I was the one that tipped you guys. You tell everybody if they donate that you'll bring the podcast back, but then you smash and grab and you just never come back. Like that was your way to pull the heist that you guys were looking for. You're like, you know what? We'll come back for one more show. Everybody donates $10 and then be like, gotcha, bitch. And just
we're out of here. We're gone. Soon enough, guys. We're ready for this rug pull. It's coming. Just wait.
I love it. All right. Thank you everybody again. Hit the like on your way out if you haven't already. Have a great week and let's make some money. Let's roll.